Summer's right around the corner, and that means it's time for a little bit lighter dishes. I've got a wonderful Gnocchi Caprese pasta dish that I think everyone's gonna like. Let's get cooking with style. The key to making the Gnocchi Caprese is using quality ingredients. I'm using San Marzano tomatoes. We're going to use the whole ones, and let me show you the technique I want you to use. We'll take a whole one, and we'll just go ahead and slice it like this. I like this because you get the big chunks of tomatoes. Also, of course, fresh garlic and fresh basil. I'm going to head over to the counter and start putting this all together. I've got my water already boiling, heavily salted. And so I'm using some store-bought gnocchi. Normally I would make them fresh, but we're just doing something kind of on the fly here. If you'd like the recipe that we made, it's on our website, cbs8.com. These cook fast, I mean really fast, like 3 or 4 minutes. So while those are cooking, I'm gonna shift some things around here. Keep that boiling, move it over here on high. I've got my saute pan all ready to go. And in this saute pan on a medium-high heat, about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I've already got my garlic all diced up and ready to go. Again, as much or as little as you like, but a minimum of 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. You can see I've got more in there than that. And I'm going to lightly saute this garlic. To that, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Keep an eye on those gnocchi, 3 to 4 minutes, and then some cracked pepper over the top of that. And then we're going to add the tomatoes in just a moment. This is going to saute for maybe like 30 or 40 seconds. Just enough to open up the oil in the garlic. All right, I'm keeping the garlic moving. I don't want it to get brown. In goes the tomatoes. Careful, don't splatter that hot oil. Okay, so I've got this all going here. And really, this sauce is this simple because we're just going to add the gnocchi to it with some fresh basil at the very end, and it's all going to come together. All right, I'm going to give that gnocchi a light, gentle stir. Been about 3 or 4 minutes. Check the recommendation on the box. That's how they look. They're floating on top. We're just going to pour these off and leave whatever water's on them and right back into the pan. Give it a toss there, into the pan. That's my dog Winston. He thinks someone's knocking. All right, and then we'll go like that. Here's that basil, just torn all up. We'll toss that in because the wilt of the basil will release the oils into that sauce. That looks so good. All right, let's get these on the plate and on the table. So look at how beautiful that looks. The color of all those fresh ingredients in there. The tomatoes, those tomatoes make the difference. The San Marzano tomatoes really make a huge difference. And then we're going to finish this off with some shaved Parmesan cheese as opposed to the grated. I like this shaved on it because of the contrast and the bigger flavor. And then of course a little presentation, a sprig of basil right in the center there. All right, there's my Gnocchi Caprese. Super easy, could be the main course, could be a side dish. Rigatoni con vodka sauce. It sounds really fancy, but it's not. It's really easy to make. It's a great main course or a side dish with some sausage. Let's get cooking with style. Since this sauce comes together so quickly, we're gonna wait till the very end to make it. What I'm gonna do right now is start my rigatoni in this boiling, heavily salted water. Don't overcook your pasta because we're gonna use some of the pasta water and the sauce to finish the rigatoni at the end. Just check the rigatoni and it is almost done, but what we're gonna do is start making the sauce. I've got a little bit of olive oil here, about 2 tablespoons. I've got my shallots, which are minced pretty fine, and I've got this on a medium heat. I'm gonna saute these just for a moment, just to kind of open up the shallots, get the flavor of them going around. We're not gonna overcook everything because we want it nice and fresh here. And you see how nice that is right there? I'm gonna take my garlic, put that in, swirl that around. This is gonna cook for about 30 seconds or so, maybe just a little bit longer. Lightly seasoned with a little bit of salt, about a half a teaspoon. Just saute that. And then we're going to take our crushed red peppers. Now you can do a lot or a little. I'm going to go with a half a teaspoon. You know what I always say, you can add more, but you can't take it out. So we'll start with that. All right, stop everything. This is really important because we're using alcohol. I want you to shut the stove off completely so there's no flame. And when you add the vodka, make sure it's away from the stove. All that steam you see coming off of there, that's the alcohol evaporating. And if that got hit by a flame, it would burst into flames. Let's get back to it. Now we're going to use tomato paste, and this is going to go in. And to that, now I'm going to add my pasta water. We're going to do 1 ladle the first time. And we'll swirl that around just a little bit. And the reason I'm using tomato paste is it's got a nice silkiness to it. And you can see how it's already thickening up that sauce, so we're going to add another ladle of pasta water. Our pasta is just about done. We'll let this come to a simmer, and then I'll strain my pasta and we'll put it all together. Pasta is almost done. Final phase, we're going to put in about a half a cup of heavy cream. And I'm going to mix this just a little bit to see how thick the consistency is. Keep the heat on medium-high because we want to reduce that cream just a little bit. See how nice and pretty that looks, the greenness of that. And I'm going to add, I held back just a little bit of my pasta water because it's getting a little tight, so I want to add a little bit more water. This is chemistry here. We're definitely making it as we go. Pasta is al dente, just a little bit less than where it should be. So we want it to cook just a few moments in here. And then I'm going to take some fresh basil, sprinkle that in. I want to put the basil in at the very end because I want all the aromatics to come out in the sauce. All right, this is just about ready to serve up. I'm going to head over to the countertop and plate it up. All right, let's get this all finally put together. I'm going to add 1 little pat of butter, 2 little pats of butter. What that does is it adds a little bit of silkiness to the sauce, and it'll add just a little bit of salt. So that's why you don't want to over salt. To this, we're just going to put this and make it family style, and then that way everyone can kind of just dig in here. Get this in here and do it as neatly as I can in that nice white bowl. You can see how pretty that looks against that. All right, give that a little shake around like so. All right, let's finish it up here. Some Parmesan cheese, put that over the top, a little bit more. Of course, you want to finish that off with a little Italian parsley, sprinkle it over the top. And since John's on the other side of the camera, a little bit of crushed red pepper for him too. All right, so this is rigatoni con vodka sauce. Super easy. You saw how fast it all came together. A real family pleaser. I love eggplant parmesan. If you want a great eggplant parmesan sandwich, go to Poma's in OB. Now, it's a little bit more difficult than what we usually do, but we've been doing this long enough that I think you can pull it off. Let's get cooking with style. Let's start off with a couple things. I'm cutting these in a little bit different fashion, the eggplant. I'm cutting them lengthwise. The reason for that is you can make each one of these a meal. Secondly, I'm going to season both sides with a little kosher salt just to get that rolling here. And then I'm going to flour these and let the flour kind of get a little moist on there so that when I do the egg wash and the breadcrumbs, it sticks just a little bit better. Sprinkle that over the top, lightly dusting the eggplant here. And we'll flip those over, do the same thing on each side. And then I'll show you how I make my Italian breadcrumbs. Now you can buy your breadcrumbs already made in the Italian form, but the reason I like to make them myself is because if I'm going to use my panko breadcrumbs and I don't want an Italian flavor, then I've got my plain panko breadcrumbs. My panko breadcrumbs, and then I use an Italian seasoning. This is a blend of different herbs and spices as opposed to just straight oregano. Salt and pepper. Really, that's how simple it is. And we're gonna give this a nice little toss. And this is gonna make the breading for our eggplant Parmesan. And then I'll get that set up. Now I gotta get my station set up here. And I'm pretty sure most of you know how to make an egg wash, but in case you don't, it's really simple. It's just 2 eggs and about a 1/4 cup of water. And I've gone ahead and whipped that up. I'm gonna dip my eggplant in there, and I'm gonna do this over and over again. Use one hand that's wet and then one hand that's dry. So, because this wet hand is gonna get so messy, all right? I'm gonna put this guy in a medium-high oil. See that nice sizzle? All right, I'm gonna get those going. I'm gonna bread the rest of these up, and then we'll assemble this in just a minute. So these have been cooking about 4 or 5 minutes, and the reason I'm cooking them a little bit longer is you'll notice I'm making these cuts really thick. So each one of these is a nice meaty piece of eggplant, which will be enough for each serving. The last one's ready, and I like to put my eggplant right on the baking dish that I'm going to use. So let's get these ready and pop them in the oven. I've got a nice little marinara. Now you can buy the jar ones, those are fine. We're making a little eggplant Parmesan. Now if you've got your favorite family recipe, you can do that. And I'm putting a good healthy portion. And those 2 ends, I buttered them together, and that's if someone's a little extra hungry there. And I've got my mozzarella cheese all grated up here. Oven set at about 375, 400 degrees. Try to keep most of the cheese on the eggplant there. And then we're gonna pop these in the oven, and you gotta keep an eye on them because you don't want this to get out of hand. And then we're just gonna take a little Parmesan cheese, sprinkle it over the top, hence the term eggplant Parmesan. And having my eggplant on the baking pan, I can just leave them on that. Almost got away, and in they go. All right, these are ready, nice and golden brown on the top. The cheese is looking fantastic. Everything is sizzling. Let's get this plated up. Now, I really want you to pay attention to this part right here. Don't forget to put down a little swath of marinara on the bottom because you don't want this sliding around. Let's take this one. That one looks really good. Put it in there like so. See, and then I add a little bit more juice to that. So now let's dress this up and make it even better. A little Parmesan cheese on top. You can do this if you'd like, you don't have to. I just particularly like crushed red peppers on the top and around on the plate. They spice things up just a little bit. And then, of course, a little of that Italian parsley. I grow this in my garden and it's absolutely fantastic. That's why I use it so much. Okay, so eggplant Parmesan. It's a classic. It looks hard, it's not. This is casual elegance. So we did the 3-minute challenge on cooking some scampi. This is gonna take a little bit longer. It's a scampi Frat Diablo with shells and a fresh made marinara. Let's get cooking with style. For the Frat Diablo, I'm gonna be using 1620 shrimp, and what we're gonna do that we normally don't do is we're gonna coat them with oil and the pepper first. You'll see why when we get over to the stove. I'm gonna use about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil, a healthy pinch of kosher salt or sea salt, whichever you like to use, and then this is the Diablo part in here, the crushed red pepper. And again, as much or as little as you like, depending on your palate. I'm going with about a tablespoon. I'm gonna toss these, and I'm not gonna let them sit in this for very long, maybe just a couple minutes to kind of break down the oil, or break down the salt so it starts to blend in with the oil. And then we're gonna sear these on the stove. The trick to doing this is putting the shrimp in an ultra hot pan. Listen to the sizzle. That's what we're not really gonna cook these all the way. They're just gonna get seared. See, it's already smoking. That's how hot it is. And that's why we coat these with the oil first. And we've got the red peppers on there. I mean, this thing is literally, you can see it's smoking hot. And all I'm gonna do is give these like a minute, maybe a minute and a half per side max. Just enough to get a little bit of a sear on them. And we'll turn them in just a moment or two once I get them all in the pan. The other thing, don't stack them in here. They've got to be in a pan that they're floating individually. So normally we shut the fan off, but this thing is so hot we had to fire it up. But take a look at these shrimp as we turn them over. We've got a nice little sear on them, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Take a look at that one right there. That's exactly what I want. And just like another minute on this side, and we're gonna pull all these off to make our Frat Diablo sauce. Okay, so these are literally just a minute later. I'm gonna shut this fan off because it is really noisy. And we're gonna leave that on high because we're gonna make the sauce now. And I want you to leave all those little bits and pieces in the pan. And yeah, these shrimp are not fully cooked, but they'll get cooked in the sauce. So back goes our pan on the stove. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil to that. And to this, the first phase is the white onion. We'll put that in there. We're gonna saute those for about 4 or 5 minutes so they get translucent and a little bit of caramelization. Okay. All right, our onions have got a nice little caramelization on it. To that, I'm gonna add my garlic and then my oregano. And this is only gonna be in here for just a minute, 30 seconds if that. And we're gonna just kind of get that garlic to just wilt a little bit under the heat. And then on top of this, we're gonna take a little bit of dry white wine. And that'll deglaze the pan. I'm gonna let that reduce for about a minute. So now we've reduced the liquid by about half, and to that I'm gonna add some high quality crushed tomatoes. Essentially what I'm making here is a marinara, and I'm gonna put about 2/3 of the can in there. I'm gonna take fresh chopped basil, and I'm gonna put that in as well. And then to this, I'll throw in some salt, about a teaspoon, and I'm gonna let this simmer down for about another 7 to 10 minutes. The sauce is perfect, but what we're gonna do first is we're gonna put some shells that are pre-cooked in my boiling water, and we're gonna warm those back up. Leave that there. In go the shrimp into this nice little sauce that we've made, and this is only really just to warm this shrimp up. I'm gonna turn it back up to a medium-high heat and let that simmer for like a minute. While that happens, I'm going to strain off my shells, which are probably already warm, and then we'll head over to the counter. So this will be simmering, the pasta shells will be strained, and we'll meet you at the counter. All right, coming in hot here, we've got our scampi all done, scampi Frat Diablo, and I've done something a little bit different with my shells. What I did is I put a little bit of olive oil, parsley, and some salt on them to just dress them up a little bit. Those are gonna go right in my serving bowl, like so, because we're trying to make a presentation here and we want this to look nice. So we've got our pasta in there, and then now comes the scampi Frat Diablo. And I always like to put the shrimp in and then kind of dress it up with a little bit of sauce on the side, leaving a little bit extra in the pan because everyone likes the sauce, and you've made basically a homemade marinara here. So these beautiful shrimp, which are not overcooked, do not overcook your shrimp. And we got plenty of sauce, plenty of pasta for everyone. And I like the symmetry or the fact that we're using a shell to go with the scampi. And it looks all kind of ocean-like, you know? And then we'll take the little bit of parsley that we've got left, put that over the top. And so there is my version of scampi Frat Diablo with some shells. I know you're gonna love this one. It is definitely casual elegance. It is barbecue season, and you're probably going to get invited to one, and this tossed Caprese salad is a great way to come to a party bringing something. Let's get cooking with style. Welcome to the outdoor studio here at CBS 8. If planes fly over, you'll know where they're coming from, Montgomery Field. All right, let's get this going here. We've got some fresh mozzarella. I like to get the mozzarella that's pre-sliced because it saves me one step and it's no more expensive. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make some simple slices here. We'll cut this into thirds, and then we're just gonna turn it and cut it again in thirds. All right, so that's gonna go in with our fresh mozzarella. We're gonna be using about a pound. Depending on the size of your party, you can use more or less. And then we've got these beautiful, I love these new tomatoes that are out, all the multicolor heirloom cherry style tomatoes. We've got kind of the greenish red ones. We're gonna cut all these in half because look at how pretty that looks on the inside. Just gorgeous. And then of course the contrast of the yellow and the red. Let me get the rest of these going here, and we'll get those all ready to go in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-make my dressing that's going to go over the top of this. So there's everything all ready to go. So if you're going to a party, you say, oh, bring over something, bring a caprese salad. Don't toss it until you get there. And you can put the dressing in a little mason jar, and then that way you just shake it up and put it over in. But we're going to put about a half a cup of olive oil in here, give or take. You can put more in if you like, less if you don't. About 1 to 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. This is very strong, so be careful. And of course, we always season. We'll go with a little pinch of salt and just a much smaller pinch of coarse ground pepper, a little bit more than that. And we're going to whisk this. Now, if you had it in a jar, you wouldn't have to do this. All right, we want to make sure the olive oil and vinegar are blended well. Set that over there. Bring in our tomatoes and our mozzarella cheese. And because we're on the outdoor set, I'm keeping the basil in the shade. Now what I've done, instead of chopping it up, I'm just going with the small leaves. If you get a big leaf, tear it in half. We're gonna just sprinkle those in over the top, and we're gonna go ahead and drizzle this over the top, most of it getting over the tomatoes. And now I know we've seasoned our dressing, but we've got all those tomatoes in there, so they need a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. I'm gonna take this and toss gently because we don't wanna get anything all broken up. We want everything to blend together nicely. This is a great way to start off a picnic or something like that, and it's nice and fresh. It's a little different than the traditional caprese where you have the sliced tomatoes. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a little presentation on these really cool plates that I just scored off of Craigslist. Like that, put it in the center, get some of those beautiful tomatoes, put them in there like so. Stack it a little high right there. And then we're just gonna finish this off with a little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top. And then we'll put a little piece of basil on top. I know I'm getting too fancy, but man, I'm telling you, doesn't that look great? This is a tossed caprese salad, something that you could take to, say, a barbecue if you've been asked to join someone, or serve it family style around the house. That's casual elegance and cooking with style. Everyone's saying it's pizza night, and you're saying, I want to get on my grill. Well, I've got a recipe that'll satisfy everyone in the home and get you out on the grill. Let's get cooking with style. When it comes to pizza dough, you can pick it up just about at any pizza place, but I picked this up at Trader Joe's, and I gotta tell you, they make some pretty good dough. I have been pounding out pizza dough since I was 16 at Palermo's, Pernicanos, you name it. If it's an Italian restaurant, I probably worked at it. So as you can see, I'm working the dough around in a circle like this, and you just turn it, flip it, and turn it. And you're just gonna work your way around. So we used to do this at Pernicanos, and we'd stand in a window, and we would throw these for the kids. The amusement, the trick is catching it like that. So you pound it out like that, and you get it into a nice, even, circular position. So we're gonna take a couple more minutes to do this, and then we'll show you how we get it on the grill. Get that excess flour off. We're just about ready to go on the grill. Take my handy dandy sprayer, pit this with a little bit of oil. This will be the grill side. Let's throw this bad boy on the grill. And we're just going just enough to get some grill marks on that. Let's put the lid down, give it about 2 minutes and check. All right, let's take a quick look. And ooh, that's close, huh? All right, let's put it on the not so hot side of the grill. And now we're gonna dress this up so we can have our pizza. So you remember all the pesto that I've been making and saving? Well, we've got a couple cubes that we've melted with a little bit of olive oil. I'm gonna drizzle that over the top. And we're gonna take some fresh Roma tomatoes. I'm gonna lie those on top there. And then we'll take some mozzarella, sprinkle that. Wait, let's put some salt on top of those tomatoes because they're Roma tomatoes. They don't have a lot of flavor, so we'll season them a little bit. Now the cheese. And we're gonna top it off with a little bit of fresh basil. And we'll put the lid down, let that grill just a little bit more, and turn the heat down because we don't want this to burn. Doing a pizza on the grill is nearly impossible if you don't have a gas grill. And there's always hot spots on your grill and spots that aren't very hot. So you're gonna have to keep your eye on that. That's looking pretty good right there. Hopefully you have one of these, a pizza knife. Get back on there, you. 6 slices? Sure, why not? God. And it is deceptively hot. All right, let's put this on a plate. Almost done, almost done. Wait for it, wait for it. Little Parmesan cheese over the top. And if you like it spicy, of course, a little crushed red peppers. All right, well, grilling season is here, and I thought I'd kick it off with a grilled pizza on Cooking with Style. Have I got a great winter pasta dish, and it's all in one pan. It's a baked tortellini with spinach topped with Parmesan and mozzarella cheese. Let's get cooking with style. You know, the coolest part about this baked tortellini is everything is cooked in one pan. I mean, literally everything. You're gonna get the onions in there, get those going with the garlic. We're gonna saute this with the butter, with this moving around in there. It's gonna take about 3 or 4 minutes till the onions and garlic are all ready, and then we'll add the flour to start getting everything thickened up. Next goes in the garlic, and you're probably asking, why don't you just put them in together? Well, the garlic cooks a lot faster than those onions, and I don't want my garlic to brown up because then it kind of gets a little bitter. About 1 or 2 more minutes with the garlic, then we add the flour. Garlic, onions are perfect, a little bit of flour in with all of that. And we're gonna saute that around for about 2 more minutes to kind of get the flour cooked just a little bit, and then we'll add the milk to create the sauce. All right, we've got the flour all ready with the onions and garlic and butter. Now we're gonna switch over to a fork and add our milk. This way we can whisk this all in, because what we're gonna do is create a little sauce here for the tortellini to go in. This will be another 2 or 3 minutes to bring this all together and for the sauce to start to get creamy. So our sauce is tightened up nicely. What you want to do is flip over the spoon, and you see when I wipe off the back there how it keeps separated. At this point, I'm going to season with just a little bit of salt and some cracked pepper. We'll take our spinach and we'll fold it in. If you use frozen spinach, make sure you wring it out before you put it in here, because it's got a lot of extra water in it, and it'll make your whole dish a lot more watery. And then to this, we're gonna take our tortellini, we'll put those in, and we'll fold this all over, and then we'll get it ready to go into the oven. It'll take just a couple minutes here. Our pasta's been cooking for about 5-6 minutes there. Nice cream sauce, spinach is all wilted. Now for the finishing touches, I'm gonna put some mozzarella cheese over the top. You can use the fresh if you'd like. I like this low moisture myself. And then we'll finish it off with a little bit of Parmesan over that. I've got my broiler on in the oven. Pop this in and brown it up, and we'll be ready in a moment. All right, this is looking good. Oh man, nice golden brown. The cheesiness is just oozing out all over. And like I said, it's all in one. So we're just gonna take a nice little scoop of this beautiful tortellini bake that I've got here. Oh, careful, it's hot. All right, you want a little more? I'd like a little more. Let's put another little scoop right there like that. You see that cheese just stretching, and oh man, you serve this up, and I'm telling you, everyone, little garnish on the side there, everyone is gonna love it. There's so much Parmesan cheese and mozzarella cheese on this, you don't need to add any more. This is an easy baked tortellini with some spinach and a cream sauce, cheesy goodness all over it. I'm telling you, this is a great way to go to get the family inspired for dinner and eating vegetables.